Breath of the Wild and Age of Calamity share a lot of the same music, but dressed up in different ways. So far in this series, I've looked at how the Breath of the Wild battle music and Mipha's theme are changed in Age of Calamity. If you missed those videos, I'll link them here. Today, we're continuing the look at the music of the champions and their descendants with Sidon's theme. This video does assume some prior knowledge from the Mipha video, so I encourage you to watch that one first if you haven't already. And as a reminder, I am not considering DLC in either Breath of the Wild or Age of Calamity for any of these videos. Without further ado, let's look at Sidon's theme. If you missed the previous video, or if you forgot, a quick reminder that Mipha's theme is based on her name. That is, the notes Mi and Fa in solfege, or E and F, assuming a fixed do system. Like Mipha's theme, Sidon's theme is also based on his name. I got this information from the same random Instagram reel that talked about Mipha's name and solfege, so thank you again to whoever pointed that out. Instead of Mi Fa, the notes E and F, we have Si Do, the notes B and C. Now, you might be familiar with tea, a drink with jam and bread, which brings us back to do. And if so, you are probably wondering what the heck C is, other than the Spanish word for yes. Well, C is simply the antiquated version of T in solfege. Quick little history lesson for you. Solfege syllables go back way before the sound of music to the Middle Ages in Europe. During the 11th century, there was a monk named Guido di Arezzo who was in charge of training singers to sing for the Catholic Church. He wanted a better way to teach his singers to remember musical pitches. So he used the first syllable from each line in a well-known chant called Utque und Laxis that just happens to move up the first 6 notes of the modern major scale, which eventually developed into the 7-note major scale we still use today. The names of those 6 notes based on Utque und Laxis were Ut, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, and La. In the 1600s, ut was changed to do to make it more singable. Do being an open syllable ending with a vowel makes it a lot easier to sing than ut, which ends with a closed consonant. The 7th note was also added this time as si, which gives us the full major scale do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. Then in the 19th century, an English music educator named Sarah Glover decided to change the syllable si to t, so that each syllable would start with a different letter. And that's how we get the familiar solfege scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Even with this change, C is still recognized as the 7th note of the scale when it's convenient. Like here, when you're trying to use music to spell the name of a handsome fish prince. It's not exactly his name, like with Mi Fa, but Si Do, or I guess Sido, is pretty dang close to Sidon. And as with most musical writing of names, it's close enough. Anyways, since Mi, Fa, and Si, Do are both just a rising half-step motion, that part of Mipha and Sidon's themes sounds pretty much the same unless you have perfect pitch. This half-step motion is of course not the whole theme, but if we take a look at Mipha and Sidon's melodies side by side, there are a lot of rhythmic similarities, and most of the notes are just transposed up a perfect fifth in Sidon's theme from Mipha's. Here I have marked those spots where Sidon's theme is a direct transposition of Mipha's. Let's listen to just the melodies side by side to hear those similarities. Since the two characters are siblings, having their themes so related to each other makes a lot of sense. Except that they have two very different personalities. This was not lost on the composers of the Breath of the Wild soundtrack, however. Instead of the theme, the composers use other elements to really bring out Sidon's personality. For one, Sidon's theme is presented at a faster tempo than Mipha's. This really brings out the energy of his personality. Where his theme differs dramatically from Mipha's, however, is in the accompaniment. The accompaniment has a lot more movement and larger leaps, and also emphasis on offbeats, which add to Sidon's playful and optimistic energy. Here's his theme as it appears throughout Breath of the Wild. In Breath of the Wild, Sidon's theme is mostly used in cutscenes, which was also true of Mipha. The first of these is when you encounter him outside of Zora's domain, and he asks you for help. I really like the usage of the theme here, because the playful nature of the accompaniment shows you this guy means you no harm, even if he is rather large and muscular.
Say hey there, young one! Up top, above you! Pardon the entrance, but you're a Hylian, aren't you? I was hoping perhaps you'd have a moment to talk. Ah.
The theme also plays each time Sidon waves at you on your way up to Zora's domain. It always starts from the beginning and lasts just until you finish clicking through the dialogue. I'll show just one of these instances because it's really repetitive watching them all side by side. If you want to see all those scenes together, I'm linking a video in the description that does just that. Once you reach Zora's domain, the music of Zora's domain starts and continues as Sidon greets you. I like this choice since it puts you more solidly in the new location, and it would be a bit jarring to suddenly switch to Sidon's theme from the other music here. Also, it was getting a little ridiculous with the leitmotivic, "Here's the character" for the whole way up the mountain. There is one other spot where Sidon's theme appears in its standard form. That is when you meet him at the lake to take on Vah Ruta. I found this an interesting choice since this is a serious moment, but you still get the very playful version of his theme. However, it does really fit well with his optimistic, encouraging nature through the dialogue here, especially when we also have his characteristic winning smile. Once you actually mount Sidon and swim towards the Divine Beast, the attack on Vah Ruta music that uses portions of Mipha's theme begins. See my previous video for a discussion on that. only other time I noticed Sidon's theme in Breath of the Wild is when Sidon drops Link off at Vah Ruta. Here is the first time the theme is different. It is considerably slowed down, and once Link lands on Ruta, a determined snare and piano line enters with Sidon saying, "Show the enemy no fear," and "I'll see you back at Zora's domain," which helps support his words showing his full faith in Link. However, this fades out into a more legato accompaniment line, and eventually ends as Sidon says, "Finish the job, Link." The underlying optimism is still there, but it shows a level of concern that Sidon feels for both Link and his trapped sister. He has confidence in Link, but that doesn't mean he won't still worry.
Well, Link, here we are. Looks like this is where the real work starts. Best of luck. Nice job cutting off the water flow from this divine beast. Show the enemy no fear. I'll see you back at Zora's domain. Farewell. Finish the job.
Like with Mipha's theme, Sidon's is dressed up to be more heroic sounding in Age of Calamity. However, it is less prominent than Mipha's, as is true of the other champion descendants. Sidon's theme is combined with Yunobo/Daruk's theme. I haven't looked into Yunobo's music enough to tell the difference yet, because it's very brief in the Breath of the Wild soundtrack at least. But I will definitely look at both of them in a future video. And it is combined with Age of Calamity's main theme in some compelling ways in the Water and Fire level. The song is called Worlds Converge, Sidon Yunobo, on the soundtrack, which is fitting with all these themes converging. This video is going to focus on specifically how Sidon's theme is used in this track, and a future video is going to look at Yunobo. Like other levels, this one has a driving accompaniment and begins with an introduction. In the introduction, we get the C-Do motif briefly. If you don't have perfect pitch or a keyboard handy, this might sound like Mipha's theme to you. But if you check, it is the notes B and C, giving us C-Do rather than Mi-Fa. The orchestration is also significant. I talked in the previous video about the connection between the oboe and Mipha/the Zora at large, and here again we get the oboe. It is coupled with piccolo, both of which will play the parts of Sidon's theme throughout this track. And here's what that intro with the C-Do sounds like. The second part of the intro, or I guess it's sort of an interlude before the main interlude, since it does technically come back, has some large leaps and held notes that at least seem inspired by Sidon's theme. For instance, we have this octave leap from E to E, which is present in Sidon's theme, as well as an E held over almost 2 measures that proceeds into 2/16 on the and of beat 4. And here are where those things occur in Sidon's theme. And here's what that sounds like in the Water and Fire level. After a short rhythmic interlude, we get the verbatim opening of Sidon's theme in piccolo and oboe. The only difference is the final measure comes early in the piccolo and glockenspiel, while the oboe holds the E for the same length as the original theme. I think of this as kind of an impatient ending. The theme needs to finish faster to fit with the rest of the track, so that last little bit comes early. This is followed by a piece of Daruk Yunobo music, Then the first part of Sidon's theme repeats in the same manner, except without that impatient ending. This is also where we get a little snippet of the Age of Calamity main theme, which, as a reminder, sounds like this. And here's what the repeat of Sidon's theme and that little bit of the Age of Calamity main theme sounds like in this level. A couple C-dos emerge over the top of the Age of Calamity main theme, which leads into a break in the driving rhythm, and a variation on the last measure of the first part of Sidon's theme. The notes are the same, but the rhythms are altered. The way the rhythms are altered is very similar to other parts of his theme. For instance, we have 2/16 followed by a held E. Even though that does not occur in the measure that is varied here, it occurs throughout the theme and makes the variation more recognizable as part of Sidon's theme. And here's what that part sounds like. This shift in energy makes me think of a similar pullback in the Zora champion level with Mipha's theme. And I feel like in a similar way it fits with Sidon's personality, showing off a gentler side to him as it did with Mipha. Like in other levels, the music shifts when hitting a strong enemy with a Sheikah rune, triggering the weak point gauge. In this level, there is a very obvious upward half-step motion like in Mipha and Sidon's themes. However, the notes are actually D and E flat instead of E and F or B and C. So it's not directly referencing either of their themes, although the sound certainly makes the player think of both. And here's what that sounds like. And that is how the music loops through the first half of the Water and Fire level. Once you board Vah Ruta to fight Waterblight Ganon, the music changes, and I didn't notice any reference to any of the champions' themes there. The music is the same in all of the Age of Calamity Blight Ganon fights. What's weird to me is where the main level music returns. Once you defeat Waterblight and get the triumphant fanfare, the intro to the main music returns while Sidon and Mipha are talking, and your character that you're playing is still in the Divine Beast. This just felt a little silly to me, but it is what it is.
I believe in you.
Other than the Fireblight Ganon battle, the only other time the music changes in this level is when fighting the Igneo Talus, where you get the Talus battle music. So that's how pieces of Sidon's theme are interwoven into the Water and Fire level. There is one other reference to Sidon's theme I found in Age of Calamity, and it is actually combined with Mipha's theme. This occurs when piloting Vah Ruta, which you get to do twice, once after the Zora champion level and once at the beginning of the Relentless as a Waterfall level. There is a cutscene showing Mipha and adult Sidon together directly after piloting Vah Ruta in the Relentless as a Waterfall level. However, even though adult Sidon and Mipha are both in this scene, we only get Mipha's theme in the Breath of the Wild version, which I missed in the previous video. Since we have Mipha and Sidon together, both of their themes could have been used here. However, using only Mipha's theme is a really nice parallel to the time she is talking to little Sidon. Both cutscenes occur right around piloting Vah Ruta, which is also a nice parallel. Anyways, onto the music during piloting. Most of the music while piloting Vah Ruta is an extra epic version of the Attack on Vah Ruta music from Breath of the Wild. I touched on this music in the previous video, as it uses the Mi-Fa motive from Mipha's theme. Here is that music as it appears in Breath of the Wild for reference. It's already pretty driving as is, but in Age of Calamity, there is an extra aggressive percussion line added, and the melody is slowed down a little and orchestrated almost solely with brass instruments instead of the oboe in Breath of the Wild. Here's what that sounds like in Age of Calamity. I went ahead and turned the sound effects all the way down so you can actually hear the music. Age of Calamity also has an added middle section, which features the whole A section of Mipha's theme on piano. Although this section is quieter, the energy stays with continuous motion in the background in the woodwinds. The rhythm of Mipha's theme here is a little jazzed up, but otherwise the theme is the same. Then the Si-Do motive from Sidon's theme enters. This is played by oboe and clarinet, bringing back the Zora oboe connection. Unlike the very brief BC in the intro to the Zora champion level, here I think the half-step motion is almost certainly a reference to Sidon, especially since the last measure of Mipha's theme used in this section repeats underneath it a couple of times on the same Mi-Fa pitch. To me, this seems like it's not simply a transposition of her theme here, but really referencing the Si-Do from Sidon. This does seem a little weird in the first piloting of the Divine Beast, but it fits really well in the second piloting since both Sidon and Mipha are on Vah Ruta during that time. So that is how Sidon's theme is presented in Breath of the Wild and Age of Calamity. His theme is very closely related to Mipha's, but used in very different ways in Age of Calamity, and even together with Mipha's theme when piloting Vah Ruta. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe for future videos. This Age of Calamity series has been pretty popular, so I'll definitely keep going with it for a while. Thank you all so much for watching.